An Afghan refugee who brought a boy into the Manus Island detention centre says he and friends only gave the child some food. The man says he's confused and upset by allegations from Australia's immigration minister that local people suspected him of sexual assault and that his actions contributed to the Good Friday attack on the centre. PNG correspondent Eric Torchek has more.
It accords with the accounts we had from the Papua New Guinea police last week, who said that their understanding was that a boy was begging for food at the front of the centre and went inside with some of the detainees, was given food and then was taken out by guards. And that's the same thing that this man says. He's an Afghan refugee, a 34-year-old man, doesn't want to give his name given the sensitivities around this issue at the moment. But I've spoken to a number of people who say he is one of the men who brought the boy inside the centre. And he says exactly the same thing. He and friends were playing soccer. It was a number of days before the Good Friday attack. They were approached on their way back to the centre by a boy asking for food or money. They said they didn't have any money, but if the boy wanted to come and wait for them, they'd give him some of their food. They went through one of the manned gates outside the Oscar compound in the centre, where the security staff, who they say were Papua New Guineans, asked them, "What are you doing bringing a boy into the centre?" And they said, "He wants some food. We're going to give him some food." The guards said, "Fine." They went inside the centre. The boy waited outside the accommodation quarters. A number of men put food into a plastic bag for him, and then the guards took the boy out. That's the same thing that police told me last week, and now that's what the men inside the centre are saying as well. You have to go through manned gates to get inside the centre. I mean, I've seen the centre from the outside. There's a fairly large security presence. So they say that the guards said to them, "What are you doing bringing a boy inside the centre?" But then when they explained, they were allowed to bring the boy inside. And, you know, it was only afterwards that guards took the boy outside once he'd been given the food. He said that he was spoken to by what's called a culture advisor. That's a staff member of Broad Spectrum, the centre operator that speaks the language of some of the detainees. He was asked afterwards and approached by the culture advisor and asked what happened, and he explained, and the culture advisor apparently said okay and left. And that was the last he heard of the incident until Minister Dutton brought it up in relation to the Good Friday attack. There's a number of CCTV cameras around the centre. Peter Dutton himself has referred to the security vision as part of the reason for giving his account. So now the detainees are saying, well, we'd like the security vision to be released because we believe it shows our account is correct, that yes, we brought a boy into the centre, but that we gave him food, he was taken out by guards. And indeed, what seems to be in contention is not that a boy was brought into the centre, but the bearing that it had on the Good Friday attack and whether or not it was associated with completely separate allegations of sexual assault that have been made on the island about other asylum seekers and that relate to incidents within the Lorengau town area, the main town on Manus Island, which is more than half an hour's drive away from the detention centre. So that's really the issue here, is whether this incident with a boy, which most accounts seem to concur that the boy was brought in and brought out again without being harmed, whether that had any bearing on what later happened, at least a number of days later, when PNG Defence Force personnel shot their guns into the air and into the detention centre and tried to gain access.
Eric Torchek there with that report.